The first thing I noticed about the Callaway factory wasn't the way it looked. It was the way it sounded. Or rather, the way it didn't. No birds, no insects, no wind moving through the broken windows. Just a silence so complete it felt deliberate. 4 teenagers went inside that building on a Friday night. By Sunday morning, every one of their phones was still ringing. No one answered them. That's when the case landed on my desk. 4 missing persons, local kids, 19 to 22 years old. No criminal history, no known enemies, no reason to disappear willingly. The only thing they all shared was a habit of exploring places most people forgot existed. Abandoned malls, shuttered hospitals, old train tunnels, and now an old toy factory at the edge of the river. They posted a photo at the gate at 10:11 p.m., smiling, flashlights raised. The caption read, "Still runs, I swear." That was the last time anyone saw them alive. The Callaway toy manufacturing plant sat at the far edge of town. 6 stories tall, brick walls cracked and sagging, windows blown out like missing teeth. A faded mural stretched across one side of the building, cartoon animals holding hands beneath a painted sun that had peeled and flaked into something closer to a warning than a promise. The gate was chained shut. The chain lay cut at its base. Clean break. Recent. I stood there for a moment longer than I needed to. Long enough to listen. Long enough to feel the place watching me back. And then I stepped inside alone. The air smelled like rust, wet cardboard, and something faintly sweet underneath it. Old plastic, maybe. Or the memory of it. My boots echoed across the concrete floor, the sound stretching further than it should have, as if the building wanted to hear exactly where I was. The factory opened into a massive manufacturing hall. Conveyor belts ran in looping paths across the floor like dried riverbeds. Assembly tables stood in long rows, coated in dust thick enough to blur the edges and soften their corners. Toys were everywhere. Not boxed, not finished, not discarded. Just waiting. Doll heads without faces stared from open crates. Stuffed animals lay split at the seams, their stuffing yellowed and sagging. Small plastic arms and legs were piled in bins, fingers curled as if they once meant to grab something and never got the chance. Something felt wrong immediately. The toys weren't scattered randomly. They were arranged, grouped, facing inward, as if the room itself were the center of their attention. I followed the teenagers' trail easily, footprints pressed into the dust, candy wrappers crushed under careless shoes, chalk arrows drawn on walls and floors pointing deeper into the factory like directions in a game no one had finished. Near the break room someone had written, "We are not alone." The deeper I went, the quieter the factory became. Not emptier, just quieter, like it was holding its breath. I passed old time clocks frozen at the same minute, lockers hanging open, their contents long gone. A lunch pail sat on a bench near the wall, rusted shut, untouched for decades. I found the first camera near the break room, half buried in dust. It was still recording. The footage opened with laughter, jokes, someone pretending to interview a headless doll like it was a celebrity. Another made it wave at the camera. And then the sound changed. A low clicking started in the background, metal shifting against metal. Someone asked if the place was supposed to be making noise. Someone else laughed and said it was just old pipes. The clicking grew louder, rhythmic, measured, like something finding its timing. The camera dropped suddenly, clattering against the concrete. The image tilted sideways, staring at the floor. The recording didn't stop. In the background, something rattled. Not metal. Plastic. I shut the camera off and stood there for a moment, listening to the silence return like it had been waiting for me to finish. I didn't touch anything. I didn't sit down. Didn't cross the faded safety line still painted on the floor. Factories have rules, even abandoned ones. You don't interrupt a process mid-cycle. You don't cross active lines. You don't treat the workspace like a playground. The teenagers had done all that. The toys changed the further I went in. A stuffed bear sat upright in a chair, its glass eyes angled toward the doorway. A jack-in-the-box twitched even though its spring was snapped clean through. Dolls lay in neat rows across the floor, their faces blank, their bodies aligned with an unsettling precision. Every single one of them faced the same direction, facing me. I stopped walking. They didn't move. The silence stretched. Then slowly, I realized something. They hadn't moved because they were already where they wanted to be. The second camera was wedged between shipping crates near the loading dock. This footage is quieter. No jokes, no laughter, just whispering. One of them said they felt watched. Another said the factory felt wrong. Someone mentioned the toys, how they seemed closer than before. Then I heard it. A child's laugh, soft, high, close. The camera swung toward the sound. Behind them, the toys had moved. Barely, but just enough. A stuffed rabbit tipped forward and fell across the doorway, its stitched smile blocking the exit completely. The screaming started immediately after. Not fear, panic. The kind that comes when you realize the room has rules you already broke. I followed the faint hum of machinery deeper into the building until I reached the assembly line. It was running, belts turning, presses cycling, mechanical arms lifting and lowering with slow, deliberate precision. There was no power, no generator, no explanation. The line moved anyway. Each motion was careful, exact, like the factory had all the time in the world. At the end of the line sat 4 toys, unboxed, unlabeled, new. A doll wearing a hoodie identical to one listed in the missing persons report. A plush bear with a stitched scar along its side. A wind-up clown with a cracked grin and eyes that reflected light too cleanly. They were warm, recently finished. That was when I understood. The factory didn't chase. It didn't hunt. It waited. It let people wander, let them touch things they shouldn't, sit where they didn't belong, break rules they never knew existed. And when the rules were broken, it corrected the mistake. The toys weren't decorations. They were extensions. Hands, eyes, teeth. When I turned to leave, the exit I'd entered through was gone. In its place was a storage room I hadn't seen before. Shelves packed tight with identical toys, all facing forward, every pair of eyes trained on me. I stayed calm. I didn't run, didn't touch anything. I followed the painted safety lines on the floor, step by careful step, until they guided me back to the main hall. The exit had returned. The factory hummed softly behind me as I stepped outside, satisfied. The case was officially closed as an accident. Trespassing, structural collapse, environmental hazards. The building was sealed, cameras installed, warning signs posted. But sometimes when I drive past at night, I see lights flicker behind the broken windows. And if I listen closely over the river and the wind, I hear it. A faint rattle, a soft hum, and toys laughing. Because the line is still running, and it always needs more pieces. Thanks for listening. If you enjoy slow burn horror and stories that don't let go when they're over, subscribe to Midnight Delight and return soon. There are always more places like this one, and they're always waiting. Good night.